How's everybody doing today? I wanted to do a quick reflect on a book that I am finishing up now, which is called Stand Up, Struggle Forward, written by Sanika Shakur, formerly known as Monster Cody Scott. Now, and many people heard of Monster Cody because he released the book Monster, an autobiography of an LA gang member in 1993, which the book really set wildfires across the states because it sold 13 million copies, and it vividly depicted life inside of the A Trade Crip gang, which is what Mr. Shakur was a member of, and it talked about how different crimes that he participated in, and it talked about the beginnings of the gang and beginning of certain gang wars and the inner workings of these different gangs. And I remember I was in High Point, North Carolina when I read the book. Now, I didn't read the book immediately when it came out. I probably read it maybe 3 years after because I was like 9 years old when it first released. And I read it at about 12. And I remember just being really amazed at, first of all, the vivid detail that Mr. Shakur went into when he talks about the different things that he did in these gangs, which we know a lot of gangs really just breed on silence, right? And he talks about the different violent acts that he was a part of that led him to in prison. And then what else I was amazed by when I read the book is when he talked about how he came into consciousness and how different books that he read while he was incarcerated helped him to understand that the war is on a more grand scale than just horizontal violence within a neighborhood. And he talks about how the police played such an intricate part of the war that they were engaged in with the other gang because, first of all, a lot of the murders were not solved. And another thing is that the police were actually very much so involved in these wars because they would tell Mr. Cody where these other gang members were because they knew what he would do when he found them. So I remember part of the book Monsters when he speaks about how the police just rolled up on him one day and said, "Hey, I understand you're looking for such and such. Well, they're over here on this street right now, and there's five of them in a car." Right now, why would a police officer tell somebody who in the neighborhood is known as a violent person, tell them where their enemies can be found? They know exactly what this person is going to do, right? So they're basically giving him free reins to extract violence against somebody that they're sworn to protect. And he vividly talked about that because he really said that shows how much the police are engaged in these wars and how it is more beneficial for them to protect property over people. And he talked about how once he started to read books and become more conscious as a person, that's when he became a bigger threat, right? That's when in jails, when he was started to be known as somebody who would read, that's when he started to have the most problems with the other guards. Not when he was beating up other black men and on the street when he was terrorizing black men and women. He wasn't a direct opponent of police. He was a comrade of the police, he said, because he was doing their dirty work. But then when he started to read these books and he started to expand his consciousness and expand his wisdom, that's when he became a direct threat to the actual system, right? So he started to understand that the system as a whole predicates on young black men and women to do their dirty work and participate in horizontal violence. So he continues that path of consciousness through the book Stand Up, Struggle Forward, where he talks about the different books that he read to expand his consciousness. He talks about how he believes in the new African movement. He believes in Black Liberation Army. So to me, the book is really just an inspiring and awe-inspiring moment because I remember first being drawn in by the violence, by the obscene, violent details of the book Monster, and then being captivated more so than the violence by his consciousness and by his wisdom and the way that he spoke about the different things that he did to become a wiser, smarter, more dangerous person. And this book is just really just comes full circle because he goes into more detail about how, he does not believe in patriarchy. He does not believe in patriotism. He does not believe in neocolonialism, right? And he's using these words so easily and he's using these words so well and just shows how much he's been reading and how much he's been meditating on these different topics. And it shows how strong minded he is to go from being, a very outstanding, member of a gang. When I say outstanding, that's just terms of, he was a person that was respected in a gang, and how he turned that into being a respected member and a respected revolutionary. And this book just shows that through proper study and through, diligent learning and reading and expressing ideas, that we all can expand our consciousness, and we all can become smarter, wiser, more dangerous people to a system that's predicated on us being, on the lower tier of our intelligence. So Stand Up, Struggle Forward, to me, is an amazing book. It's about 260 pages. It's not an easy book at all because, like I said, he's using terms like proletariat. He's using terms like neocolonialism. He's using terms about patriarchy. He's speaking about some pretty heavy topics. When he, one part of the book, he actually talks about, he says, they say God created man in his image, and he believes that's the reverse. He believes that man created God in man's image. So, he really directly attacks patriarchy and talks about how racism is a branch from the tree of patriarchy. And, he talks about these different topics of what we can do as young Africans, what we can do to protect ourselves and to keep fighting against the system. So to me, it's an amazing book. Like I said, I'll be finished with it by the end of the day today. I've really been stuck on it because it just shows really what the Black Book Club is all about, which is elevating our own levels of consciousness and, being able to speak directly to our community and to pull them up with us. You know what I mean? Each one teach one is what we believe, and reading is revolutionary. And this book just really displays that and showcases that reading is revolutionary, because this man became a true, definition of what a revolutionary can be, from where he was to where he was trying to go before, unfortunately, he passed away. So, like I said, Stand Up, Struggle Forward is a book that I recommend to anybody, especially anybody that read Monster. I would recommend that you reread Monster and then you read Stand Up, Struggle Forward, just so you can get everything in that full circle, and you can really see where he came from, where he was at before he passed away. Stand Up, Struggle Forward came out in 2003, so it was actually 20 years after Monster came out. And one thing he speaks about, he says, LA was fine when I was shooting people. LA was fine when I was Monster Cody. But when you become a revolutionary is when you become a threat. So, it really kind of explains it right there. So a book that I would highly recommend to anybody, especially anybody that's read Monster or anybody that's heard about Monster. I would suggest that you read Monster and then you read Stand Up, Struggle Forward. And that way it'll all come a lot more clear to you. Thank you.